A full moon shimmers down on the city of Colorado Springs. It's a weeknight, and most people are fast asleep, including a young woman named Gwen Watson.
Gwen has been asleep for a little while. All of a sudden she's awakened, and it's that kind of awakening where you can't figure out exactly why you woke up at first.
This is what you're doing.
What's wrong with you, Jamal? I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything.
And she sees her roommate, Pam, bleeding out.
Gwen's trying to check on her, notes that there's a large pool of blood starting to expand around Pam's body. Then she hears sounds in the living room portion.
Oh, Fred.
Meanwhile, across town, Lt.Joe Kenda is up late doing battle with a regrettably familiar foe.
I often sleep for an hour or two at a time, and then I'm awake. When I would do that, I would get up and I would read. I prefer historical books. And as I'm sitting there reading about Oliver Cromwell, who wanted to overthrow the throne, the phone rang.
It's Kenda.
I've been annoyed that I'm awake, and now I have to be awake.
Normally quiet, the 3100 block of Vale Pass Drive is now inundated with flashing lights and first responders.
You have to find a place to park is the first problem, because you've got all this emergency equipment and marked units. You wind up walking from 2 blocks away.
How you doing? So what's going on?
We've got 2 shot. We've got one transported to St. Francis already. The other one didn't make it. 25-year-old male, Freddie Hill. He's at the hospital.
He had several gunshot wounds, arm and to the chest area. He was alive at the scene, transported from the scene to a local hospital for emergency treatment.
The victim, 27-year-old Pamela Edwards, leaves behind an estranged husband and 2 little girls.
Pam was a nurse's aide. She had a good job. She was a responsible worker. She was apparently just a really attractive personality.
Hey, Brian.
Lieutenant.
Blood is a necessary component of a violent crime scene. Some are worse than others. This has an enormous amount of blood present.
The other one's back that way. All right, I'll go take a look.
I'm beginning where Freddie was shot, which is the sofa. There's quite a bit of blood on the sofa, but there's no blood trail leading up to it, which tells me he was shot on this sofa and remained on the sofa to bleed.
Kenda directs his attention across the room to the body of Pamela Edwards.
Pamela is at the base of the stairs, lying in a fetal position. There is a growing pool of blood under her.
So what we got?
Gunshots, just all over. 3 that we found so far. We got left hand, abdomen. Last one clipped her heart.
Pamela Edwards has been shot and shot and shot and shot. One literally tearing her heart.
Was this horrific crime an act of random violence or a targeted killing? Kenda scans the area and discovers a clue.
Jet tweezers?
There's expended casings. They are .380 caliber, common ammunition easily available. Nothing unusual about it. The thing I noticed most, there's a live round next to the female. Now that's significant because if you understand guns, it speaks to the emotion of the shooter.
What's it doing here?
He is so angry that he racks the slide of that pistol to make sure it's loaded, and he ejects a live round before he starts shooting. That speaks to the level of intent of your shooter.
Kenda is beginning to suspect the double shooting was personal in nature, and he knows a simple way to prove his theory.
Any signs of forced entry?
I look at the front door, which is very close to where the first victim is discovered. How did this perpetrator get in here? Forced entry is indicative of a stranger case. Did he force his way in? Was he invited in?
The front door did not show signs of damage as in the result of being kicked in.
But that's when Detective Brian Ritz notices something unusual.
Oh, that's weird. Hey, look at this.
Some scuff marks on the lower portion of the door may be consistent with somebody kicking at the door, trying to knock loudly with their foot.
Looks like somebody was pissed.
Whoever it is extremely emotional before he even gets inside.
But despite the aggressive behavior, Pam or Freddie let that person in.
Now, when you have multiple victims in a shooting in a private home, then you always have this question: who's the target?
I gotta say my money's on the girl. You know, it's her place. And
It's most likely. Too soon to know yet, though. Where's the witness? The girl that called 911?
She's up in the master bedroom.
She didn't vacate the premises?
We had to let her stay, Lieutenant. She's up there with the victim's 2 daughters.
There's kids.
Yes.
We've got 2 kids upstairs. What?
That's kind of contrary to normal procedures, but for the mental security of the children, it's best that they did not have to see her mother laying at the foot of the stairs dead.
They're just in here.
okay.
According to responding officers when they first arrived, Pam's daughters were already in her bedroom, Lamaya, age 8, and Tanaya, age 7.
They've been doing okay.
They're okay for right now. We're just all still in shock.
Okay. Hey, girls. You doing okay?
I remember the police came and they told us that we could not leave because it was a crime scene.
You two just sit tight, okay? Check back on you in a little bit.
Everybody there was like great officers. Like, seriously, they protected me and my sister as well. We were in that room a long time.
There's nothing more horrible in a crime scene than children. Children don't understand death. They don't know that it's final, and you can't fix it. You can't tell them it's going to be okay because it's not going to be okay.
Kenda now faces the grim task of questioning Gwen about the murder of the girl's mother.
Gwen, can I come in for a second? I'm a police officer.
Sure.
And I open the door, and the little girls are there. It's a horrible emotional event. You have this overwhelming feeling. I'd just like to make this go away for them.
Lieutenant Kenda, can I ask you a few questions?
Hey, girls.
So you live here?
Yeah. Pam's letting me stay here for a little while until I get out of my little situation.
From everything Gwen says, it's hard to imagine anyone wanting to harm Pamela Edwards.
My mother was very caring.
That's easy for me.
Very funny. She was down to earth. Like, everybody wanted to be around her. She was just awesome. We were her pride and joy. She lived for us, you know. A lot of the times it was just me, her, and my sister, you know, so she let us know that she loved us, how much we meant to her.
Kenda wonders if the presence of Freddie Hill in the home might have been the catalyst that triggered the incident.
Why was Freddie here tonight?
He just came over to hang out. We both know him. She took the kids and put them in bed, and we were just watching TV. Well, guys, I'm gonna head off to bed now.
It's still early and you put the movie on.
I mean, I'll pass out right here if I don't go to bed now.
Good night, Granny.
Was there something going on between the two of them?
Not that I know of, but I know he had a crush on her. It's kind of why I turned in early, so they could be alone together.
A few hours later, Gwen was awakened by the commotion downstairs and then stepped into a scene of unthinkable violence. Gwen also explains that Pam's children did in fact witness the carnage.
It was so much blood. And I just remember screaming, "Mommy, no, 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 Mommy. Mommy." I remember my sister, she tried to cover my eyes, but I still saw her laying at the edge of the stairs, and I think she looked at me, and I looked at her. I was trying to speak to her, and she couldn't talk. She was just gasping for some air.
They're the little kids in their formative years in this terrible moment, and Gwen has to step up for them.
Gwen says she immediately got the girls into the bedroom and called 911.
Yes. There's been a shooting? Thank you.
And after the call, did her best to comfort them.
It makes a sinking feeling in your stomach. Life is never going to be the same for them. I know that, and it really bothers me, and you're helpless to do anything about it.
Kenda's heart goes out to Tenaya and Lamaya, and their pain only strengthens his determination to solve the case.
It's just not fair. Pam was such a sweet person. She never deserved to be a target.
Target?
And I thought that was an interesting choice of a word. What do you mean by target?
Do you know someone was out to get her?
She's got this crazy ex-boyfriend who won't leave her alone. I mean, it's gotta be him.
Oh, really? Now this could mean it all right here. There's going to be a judgment day, and it happens to be today. I'm investigating a multiple gunshot bloodbath in a townhouse.
Someone brutally murdered Pamela Edwards and put her friend, Freddie Hill, in critical condition.
And the roommate has just told me that she has an instinct of who might be responsible.
Pam was in this on-again, off-again relationship with this creep Jamal.
Jamal?
Wilson. Jamal Wilson.
So I tell Gwen it's important for me to know everything you know about this relationship.
Gwen starts off by explaining Pam and her husband, Eugene Edwards, separated nearly a year ago. Since then, she'd been dating, and that's where Jamal comes in.
Oh, excuse me. Get this for you.
Pamela met this individual at a gymnasium where Pam goes to work out.
Pamela, I'm Jamal.
And he's attracted to Pamela and vice versa. So they begin to date.
They had kind of a whirlwind courtship. But shortly after really spending time with him, some critical issues started to occur, what we call red flags.
You know what? I'm leaving.
You leaving?
I'm leaving because you have a problem, Jamal, and I'm tired of it.
But you the problem over here looking at these men, huh? Come over here. Where you think you're going, huh?
He begins accusing Pamela of having a wandering eye, that perhaps that she's interested in other men.
You don't just walk off on me.
Jealousy is a very powerful emotion. It drives people forward in a maniacal way.
I think you're talking to you like that. You're supposed to love me.
We're now talking about pure, white-hot rage.
Mom, we finished cleaning our room, but a certain someone didn't help.
So it started with the black eyes, and then it went to having, outbursts in public when people are around. And then it went to beating up people that she even just communicated with. But then, it'll be like she'll vent about it, and then, we'll see him again. She was just a forgiving person, so she fell for it.
It got so bad. A couple of months ago, we put her in the hospital.
He beats her so severely he breaks one of her ribs. He gets arrested for this and gets thrown in the county jail for assault. She then breaks it off with him, gets a restraining order against him, and has nothing further to do with him.
Do you know when he got out of jail?
He's been in and out because he keeps violating the restraining order. But I know he got out on bail a few weeks ago.
And have you seen him since then?
Yeah, it's the same old, same old. He shows up at the house, he shows up at her job. It's scary.
Jealousy doesn't always fade away. Sometimes it festers. We need to get our hands on Jamal and find out what his story is.
Do you know where I can find him?
No, but I can ask around and let you know if I find out.
Thank you, I'd appreciate that.
I hate you, Jamal.
I'm gonna find out who hurt your mother. I promise you.
And then I became emotional.
Joe Kenda, I can tell he was really upset.
Jamal wrote the letter while he was behind bars, so Kenda is going to have to do a little more work to find Jamal's home address.
But I still need to do something to make this less horrific for them when they come down that staircase. There's no other way out.
Stefan?
Pam's body has already been removed, but downstairs is still a mess of blood and gore.
All right, here's what we're gonna do. These girls have seen too much already.
Definitely.
So I'm gonna grab a couple blankets, cover them up.
Okay.
You girls ready to play a little game?
The police, they did a very good job because I got sheltered from that. One officer held me and another one held my sister, and they told us, close your eyes, okay? I'll tell you when to open them. It's very important that everybody that worked that night knows that they were just awesome.
Just a few hours into the investigation, and Kenda feels they are close to solving the case. They just need to pull the address for their prime suspect.
Jamal Wilson should have a very clear and recent criminal record.
Corrections.
How you doing? This is Joe Kenda over at Homicide.
We call the county jail inmate section and say,
Yeah, you just recently released a Jamal Wilson. He was in custody for domestic assault. You ever try to get an address on him?
and there's silence on the phone.
Who?
It's Jamal Wilson.
Yeah, we don't have a record of a Jamal Wilson in the system.
Are you sure?
Yes, we're sure.
Okay, thank you.
If Jamal was just released from jail, how could there be no information on him in the system?
They don't have a Jamal Wilson in their system.
Have we heard about the other victim?
Let's take a ride to the hospital.
Until Kenda and Ritz can find Jamal Wilson and question him, they need more evidence.
What's beneficial to this investigation is we do have a second victim.
He is looking right at this guy when the trigger gets pulled. If he knows him, he can tell me who it is. We go to the hospital to talk to Freddie.
You guys are here for Mr. Hill?
Yes, sir.
Freddie's not available to be talked to. He just came out of surgery. He's unconscious. He would have died had he not been brought in there immediately.
But he's going to do just fine.
That's good news. At least we know we're going to have a living witness.
How do you think we can talk to him?
Sure, not yet. When he's awake, I'll have someone come and get you.
Great, thank you.
We sit there for 2 hours, strumming our fingers in a hospital, because we don't have a direction to move in. Freddie has to provide it.
Finally, they get to question the man who can make or break their case.
He is what you expect him to be. He is traumatized emotionally. He is a physical wreck. And I said, Freddie, I know you're in a lot of pain right now, but I need your help. What happened that night?
We were just kicking back, watching TV. Gwen and Pam and I, it started to get late, so Gwen went to bed and she left us alone. I figured it was my chance.
I love chilling with you.
I like that you like hanging out with me.
Because you're a great friend.
Freddie says that just as he and Pam were getting close, all hell broke loose.
Let me check and see what that is, okay?
Open the door, Pam.
Who is that? And right before he shot us, he accused her of lying, cheating.
Hang on a second. Do you know who the shooter is?
Yes, her ex.
So at this point, it's pretty clear who the suspect is, or at least it looks pretty clear. The boyfriend, Jamal Wilson, he's beating her up. There's your guy, right?
So how long have you known Jamal Wilson?
Jamal Wilson. I knew the guy that shot us. It wasn't Jamal Wilson.
Excuse me? We're investigating the shooting death of Pamela Edwards. Indications are from witnesses at the scene that the person responsible for this is one Jamal Wilson. We're now in contact with Freddie, the second victim, and he says his name isn't Jamal. So who the hell is he?
He says the individual that shot him was Sammy Denson.
Sammy and Pam used to date.
And you're sure this wasn't somebody else?
I'm positive. I saw him with my own eyes. I've met him before.
Not only can Freddie tell him who it was, but Sammy Denson's known in town. Sammy had been training to be an Olympic boxer.
He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's a heavyweight boxer, and he's built like one.
You know where we might be able to find him?
In the ring? I just know him through Pam.
Actually, Brian, I know where we can go. All right, thanks for your help, Freddie. I hope you get well soon. We'll get this guy.
Colorado Springs is the headquarters of the U.S. Olympic Committee. The USOC trains many of their athletes for both the Summer and Winter Olympic Games in Colorado Springs.
Kenda figures if anyone knows where to find Sammy Denson, it would be his coach.
We've been up all night, and now it's like early in the morning, but gym's open early.
Roll up. Good job, guys. Good job.
How you doing? I'm Lieutenant Kenda, Detective Ritz.
How you doing? Richard Wood.
Is this your place?
I was a level 4 Olympic level coach for USA Boxing, plus a professional boxing trainer. We had world champs, all training out of there.
You never want to identify somebody as a suspect to somebody you don't know. So I say, we're investigating a double shooting, and we have a person we're interested in talking with.
You know Sammy Denson?
Yeah, I know Sammy. I used to be his coach.
Used to be?
Yeah, I couldn't take him anymore. It's hard watching somebody throw their life away. Come on, let's go! Move, move. Work, good work.
This tall, good-looking kid from Philadelphia walks in and said, I want to fight. I've only heard that 500 times, right? I said, okay.
Good, good, good.
He was that gifted.
Nice, nice.
Richard tells Kenda he set out to sculpt Sammy into a champion. And Sammy's hard work quickly started to pay off.
We were going into the 93 national tournament as the #1 ranked guy. He was the man.
Snap that jab, snap the jab. Snap it. Come on, Sammy. What are you doing?
But things had begun to fray a bit. Sammy, he said, had gotten into drugs, and Richard had been down this road with him a couple of times.
Get your hands up, let's go. Get your bag, let's go.
Young people never understand that they're looking for a dream in a drug that's going to destroy every dream they've ever had in their life.
Me and Sammy been through this so many times. It's the drugs. Every time we get close to where we want to be, he'd be winning the fights and he would lose his stamina.
According to Richard, cocaine ruined Sammy's chance at the title. Even worse, it ruined Sammy's personal life.
He has a girlfriend named Pamela. Beautiful girl. I thought she was going to be the one thing that made him straighten his life out, but his head was so screwed up. He started beating on her.
Prolonged use of cocaine produces a dramatic change in personality. You become paranoid, you become violent.
That's it.
He was a trained fighter. Anything he touched, he could hurt. And for him to hit a smaller woman like that, that's when I had kicked him out of the gym and told him he wasn't allowed back.
Last I heard, he put her in the hospital with a broken rib.
You're talking about Pamela Edwards, right?
Yeah.
And Sammy went to jail and Pamela filed for a restraining order?
Yeah, that's right.
So I said, everyone else has been telling me about a volatile involvement with a fellow named Jamal Wilson. I don't understand how this could be. And Richard Wood said, oh, I understand.
Well, his given name is Sammy Denson, but he wanted to be called Jamal for whatever reason.
It's the same guy. Now, the fog lifts. We thought we had 2 suspects, and in fact, we only have 1.
According to Richard, their suspect just has a quirky love of nicknames.
No wonder we couldn't find him. We weren't looking for the right name.
Detectives now have enough to charge Sammy Denson with murder and attempted murder. But first, they have to find him.
Is Sammy in trouble again?
We just need to talk to him. Any idea where we can find him?
He has a brother named Wayne. He's been kind of staying over there with him.
All right, thank you for your help.
Great. We are off and running. We arrive at the place where his brother lives with him. And nobody's there. We look in all the windows, knock on the doors, nothing. We go back to our car and we watch. We sit there for quite some time.
But meanwhile, across town.
Hello? I got this guy who says he killed 2 people in the car.
911 dispatch receives a call from a party named Ruben Caro.
Ruben says he's an acquaintance of Sammy Denson.
We're at a gas station. It's on Nevada and Fillmore. You gotta come get us.
He sounds really upset. He's riding around town in a car with Sammy Denson, and Sammy's got a gun.
10-4, we're on the way. Head out.
We need to find them, or this is going to end very badly. .911 has received a call from a bondsman named Ruben Caro.
We're at a gas station.
Says he is riding around town with Sammy Lee Denson, and he's got a gun.
Yeah, I told him I had to go use the bathroom. But I gotta get back soon. He's gonna think something's up.
Ruben tells dispatch officers that he and Sammy met 1 month ago when he contracted with Sammy to post bail.
He posted a $50,000 bond for Denson to get him out of jail on the domestic violence assault charges. So they have some kind of relationship.
Is there anyone else in the car with you and the suspect?
Sammy, hey. It's not gonna be all right.
Yeah, his coach, Richard. We've been trying to calm him down. This all happened an hour ago when he gave us a call.
Come on, coach, answer.
Sammy is freaking. He's trying to figure out what to do. He calls his coach and his bail bondsman.
Hey, coach, I need to see you, coach. I need to see you right away.
I said, I really don't want to hear it, Sammy.
No, coach, this is no bull, man. Something really, really bad happened, coach. I can't hold it in any longer. I feel like I'm gonna kill myself, coach.
So I headed down to meet him. Sammy and Ruben were in the front seat. And I got in the back seat and we started driving.
I did something bad, coach.
What happened?
Pam hurt me. She hurt me, man. She know I loved her, man. I seen her cheating on me. I called her cheating with Freddie.
Please tell me you didn't hit her again. Sammy, calm down. Calm down.
I shot them both!
What?
I shot them both!
No! Come on, man.
Sammy, no!
He had caught his girlfriend with another guy, and she broke his heart, so he took hers.
Nobody in my life do me right!
Come on, man. No!
And I was in shock, and then angry when I heard that he had hurt Pam, and angry that he was waving the gun with me and Ruben in the car.
They don't know if he's going to get desperate and kill himself. They don't know if he's going to get upset with them and shoot them. So, not a pleasant ride.
Ruben Caro tells dispatchers that at that point, he was so fearful of what Sammy might do, he made up the story about needing to use the bathroom so that he could call the police.
When Ruben makes that 911 call, he says they're in his car, personalized plates that say Ruben.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and stall as much as I can.
She's been cheating on me.
I know she's wrong.
What took you so long?
So we put out the word to all police officers on duty. We need this car, occupant armed and dangerous, wanted for murder.
Kenda and Ritz rush to head Sammy off at the gas station. But when they get there, the trail has run cold.
Lieutenant.
Were they already gone?
Yes, sir.
Anybody see which way they went?
No, sir. Too many cars coming and going.
We're looking for the proverbial needle in the haystack somewhere wandering on the 13,000 known streets in Colorado Springs.
All right, let's find him.
Yes, sir.
We're concerned. There is that potential threat for a hostage situation. This needs to come to an end before somebody else gets hurt.
While patrol searches for a vehicle with personalized Ruben plates, Ruben Caro himself is driving aimlessly around the city, praying the police will pull him over.
I got some friends. I got some friends at the police department.
Please, no, police department! No, this! No!
Hey, what are you doing,
No,
man?
Sammy,
No, Sammy, put the down!
Please, Sammy!
Sammy was getting more and more agitated and wild-eyed and waving the gun, and it was very, very intense.
Please, Sammy! We've been through all this, Sammy, together.
I said, I don't think you even understand the depth of what's going on here. What you've done is unforgivable.
Everybody in this car is an emotional wreck. The only problem is one of them's got a gun.
She knew I loved her.
I know that. Sammy,
Brad
this ain't
knew I
worth it.
loved
It
her,
ain't
too.
worth it, Sammy. We'll figure it out.
Put the gun down.
As much as Richard and Ruben want the police to intervene, it dawns on them just how dangerous that could be.
We're gonna stop and get something to eat, okay, Sammy? We're gonna get something to eat, and we're gonna work through this, okay?
I knew we needed to get out of the car because in his state of mind, if the cops would have pulled us over and guns would have been drawn, I didn't want to be part of the target.
Take it easy, brother. Just breathe, man. Breathe, relax.
Everything's good. I got you. Everything's okay. It's okay, Sammy. This is Coach.
Ruben and Richard head to a nearby diner.
I gotta go to the bathroom, guys.
Ruben again uses a trip to the bathroom as an excuse to contact the police.
When you're in a situation like that, it's surreal at the time.
What took you so long, man?
In the bathroom, brother. In the bathroom. Doing all right, huh?
And so now what he needs to do is not tip his hand that he's done anything and wait for the cops to come.
Thankfully, Ruben and Richard won't have to wait very long.
We're cruising around town along with every other policeman on duty. Then we get a radio call that 911 has gotten a call from the diner at Pikes Beacon Circle. Bingo.
Dispatch, this is 533. We're en route.
We got to get there right now.
Sammy, the cops just pulled up, Sammy. You gotta turn yourself in.
I'm not going nowhere.
I said, Sammy, the police are here. You've got to go surrender.
Excuse me, ma'am. Somebody called us from inside the diner. Would you happen to know what table place to call?
No, darling, I don't know.
Sammy, listen to me, please.
I said, I don't want to be caught in the crossfire if you get in a shootout with them. And I took my foot and physically pushed him out of the booth. It was just surreal. Sammy was 6'4", and the cop was as big as he was. And they looked at each other, dead in the eye.
They're not going to confront him inside this business where there are innocent people. This is a guy running with a gun. You don't get any more dangerous than that. He's running literally for his life. If a perfect stranger gets in his way, I don't know what he might do.
Police, stop now! Stop!
We have two officers in foot pursuit of Sammy Lee Denson on the streets of the city.
Black male, black shirt, running eastbound through the alley. Stop!
Kenda's suspect got a good head start, and years of boxing mean he has the stamina to keep it up.
It's literally the fight or flight instinct. You're gonna run as fast as you can. Sammy was in excellent physical condition. His bad luck was, so was one of the officers.
I've lost sight of him. Anybody got him?
It's a potentially deadly scenario.
He was able to locate the individual hiding in some bushes in the backyard of a residence.
You see your hands! You see your hands! Come out right now! Come out right now!
So he comes out, his hands are in the air, and he has no gun in his hand.
Hey, don't shoot! Step right here! You got me, don't shoot! I got one at gunpoint.
And as Didi starts to approach him,
Get on the ground! Get
he takes off again.
There was a darn good foot chase, and it went on for a long time.
Sammy climbs the gate and climbs up the side of the building. Where are you going, Sammy? Have you learned how to fly? Up leads nowhere. He loses his balance and falls backwards into the yard. Didi pounces on him, rolls him, and cuffs him.
I said, what did you do with the gun? Tell me.
Now we have him.
So what'd you do with the gun?
You want to talk, Sammy?
No. N.O. Fine. Interrogation is over.
You sure that's how you want to play this? Suit yourself.
Sammy's silent treatment doesn't faze Kenda and Ritz one bit.
He never made a statement of any kind. But we have other people that can make a statement.
Based on the statement Sammy made to boxing coach Richard Wood and bondsman Ruben Caro, Kenda is able to piece together what happened the night of the shooting.
Why are you sitting so far away? Maybe you should just sit a little closer.
We have Sammy going over to this townhome to try to contact Pamela. He's going to try to get back with her. And he looks in the window.
What is doing over here?
Sammy told me that she was on the couch with a friend of theirs, and that broke his heart.
You're playing me.
He just thinks that this is the new boyfriend. Oh my God, my worst fear has been realized.
Fueled by jealousy and addled by months of cocaine abuse, Sammy cocked his pistol and began beating on the front door.
Let me see who that is at the door. Hold on, okay?
Open his door. What's going on? Huh? This what you doing here? This what you got going on here, huh? Jamal? This what you got going on? I'm gonna kill you! I'll kill you!
He shoots her, he shoots Freddie.
No!
And then he runs away into the night.
Sammy Denson is convicted of first-degree murder and first-degree assault and is sentenced to life without parole.
He has to deal with this for the rest of his life. They made it so that he's not going to hurt anybody else, you know?
I remember her daughter testifying, and she was so little. All you could think was that little girl was so brave, and nothing she did was ever really going to make it better because her mom was gone.
They weren't able to save my mom, but it wasn't in their hands. That's a higher power, you know? But they rescued us that night. They came and they rescued us.
I can resolve that case. I did resolve it by arresting him. I cannot undo what he did. I cannot give those girls their mother back.
It was horrible. My life was not always this good. It was bad. I think me and my sister, we lived our life looking for answers. Like, why? Why did this happen? All little girls aren't supposed to lose their mom. Who's gonna teach me to be a woman, you know?
Their mother would never see them get married, would never see them grow up, never be at their high school graduation. There'd be only an empty chair and a painful memory for them. You can't get any more tragic than that.
They say every small town has a secret. In 1991, Maple Falls, Ohio, found out what happens when the secret refuses to stay buried. It starts with a phone call. A dispatcher jerks awake in a dimly lit control room, red digits glowing 2:13 a.m., the kind of hour when nothing good ever happens. On the line, a man breathing hard, whispering like someone might hear him through the wires. 7 words, hoarse and shaking, barely audible over the crackle. You need to get to Old Mill Road. Then a click, a dead tone, and a silence that will echo for decades. Outside, Maple Falls is sleeping. One blinking traffic light, one all-night gas station, rows of dark houses with curtains drawn tight against the cold. It's late October, the air sharp, the streets slick with a thin film of mist, a town of lonely streets and locked doors, the kind of place people drive through without ever wondering who lives there, who stays, who disappears. Old Mill Road bends away from the small downtown strip and into the woods, a narrow, cracked ribbon of asphalt swallowed by trees. No one goes there at night, no reason to. The old mill's been shut down since the 70s. The river runs black and slow, carrying beer bottles, dead leaves, and memories nobody wants to hold on to. The first patrol car rolls up at 2:26 a.m. Headlights carve the fog into columns of artificial daylight. The radio hisses. An officer steps out, breath blooming white in the air, hand resting on his holster, more out of habit than fear. Nothing moves. It's too quiet. No engine noise, no crickets, just the slow rush of the river and the distant hollow creak of the abandoned mill. Then he sees it. At the side of the road where the gravel shoulder disintegrates into wet grass, a car is sitting slightly crooked, hazard lights ticking red, red, red against the darkness. A blue '89 Chevy Cavalier, driver's door shut. Front left tire half off the asphalt, like someone pulled over in a hurry and never quite finished the maneuver. Headlights off, windows fogged from the inside. He calls it in, voice steady, but his hand is shaking just enough that later he'll swear he wasn't. Another cruiser pulls up, 2 more officers. Their footsteps crunch on gravel, echoing in the dark like someone else is walking with them. They approach the Chevy, flashlights cutting through the condensation on the glass. Inside, they see nothing, no movement, no silhouette. No driver slumped over the wheel, just an empty driver's seat, an empty passenger seat, a half-drunk styrofoam cup in the console, a cassette tape in the deck, keys still in the ignition. The officer taps on the glass, then curses under his breath. The door is unlocked. The smell hits first. Cold air, cheap coffee, faint trace of drugstore perfume. A denim jacket tossed on the back seat, a pair of white sneakers on the floorboard, one tipped on its side like somebody stepped out in a hurry. A purse is sitting open on the passenger seat, its contents spilling onto cracked vinyl, lipstick, wallet, pack of spearmint gum, a folded paycheck stub from Maple Falls Diner. Name, Emily Carter. Age, 19. The clock on the dash reads 2:17. The officer's voice is flat when he calls it in. Possible missing person, abandoned vehicle, no sign of struggle, no blood, no broken glass. But something feels wrong. The car is too neat, too quiet, as if someone hit pause on a life that was supposed to keep playing. Back in town, the night shift at Maple Falls Diner is cleaning up, stacking plates, wiping down counters under buzzing fluorescent lights. Emily's name is still on the roster whiteboard behind the register, scrawled in blue marker next to close. Her coworker, Jenna, thinks she's in the back grabbing her coat. Her manager assumes she's already left, hurrying home to beat the cold. Nobody knows that 5 miles down the road her car is sitting like a question mark in the darkness, hazards pulsing a silent alarm. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Something is very, very wrong. By 3:00 a.m., the quiet town is awake. The police chief is dragged from his bed, pulling on yesterday's shirt and a pair of scuffed boots, his wife watching from the doorway with arms folded and eyes wary. This isn't the first time someone's car has been found on the side of the road. DUIs happen, fights happen, people storm off, sleep it off, come back the next day with excuses and apologies. But this feels different. He arrives at Old Mill Road and studies the scene. Officers, flashing red and blue lights washing over tree trunks, the blue Chevy, haloed in fog. The chief runs a hand over his face, then squats by the driver's door, his flashlight tracing the rubber floor mat, the pedals, the faint outline of a shoe print on damp asphalt just outside the open door. One print, not two, not a pattern leading away, just a single partial imprint, smudged, pointing toward the tree line. The woods stare back, dark, unreadable. They should tow the car and call it a night. That's what procedure would say. They should log it, file it, wait 8, 12, 24 hours before labeling anyone missing. Adults have the right to disappear. Adults wander. Adults make bad choices. But as the chief looks at that open purse, that scattered gum, that paycheck stub from a diner where tips matter and cash is king, he feels a cold weight in his gut. He orders a search. Flashlights swing into the trees. Voices call Emily's name, first loud, then softer, as if they're afraid of what might answer. The river keeps moving, slow and patient, ignoring the men crashing through underbrush and dead leaves, ignoring the beams of light skittering over its surface. The old mill looms on the hill above, skeletal windows like hollow eye sockets, watching. Nothing. No footprints leading deeper into the woods. No drag marks, no torn clothes caught on branches, no signs of an animal attack, no sign of a struggle. It's as if Emily stepped out of her car and dissolved into the mist, leaving everything behind but the echo. By sunrise, the story is already mutating. In living rooms and kitchens, in the break room at the factory, over coffee at the diner, the whispers begin. Did you hear? Emily from the night shift. Car left on Old Mill. Hazard still on. Keys in the ignition. The words spread fast, sharper than the November air. People like Emily don't just walk away. Not from rent that's due. Not from double shifts. Not from a kid brother she picks up from school. A mother she argues with but always comes home to. Cold case in the making, someone mutters at the gas station, half joking, half afraid, not knowing how right they'll eventually be. At first, it's handled like any missing person report. Forms, statements, questions that feel routine but will later read like a script no one took seriously enough. When did you last see her? Did she seem upset? Did she say she was meeting anyone? Did she have enemies? Did she owe money? Did she ever talk about leaving? Her coworkers remember her laughing near the coffee machine. Her manager remembers her asking to leave 10 minutes early to beat the fog on Old Mill Road. A truck driver remembers her refilling his mug, eyes tired but polite, a silver bracelet jingling on her wrist. No one remembers her looking scared. No one remembers any strange customers. Nothing stands out. Just another Tuesday night sliding into Wednesday morning. Yet in the middle of that bland, ordinary routine, a detail surfaces, small, easy to miss. The kind of thing that years later will still make people lean forward. A regular at the diner, a man who sits alone at the end of the counter most nights, swears he saw Emily talking to someone in the parking lot at closing time. Not flirting, not arguing, just talking. Shoulders close, faces turned away from the light, a silhouette in a dark hooded jacket. Could have been a boyfriend. Could have been a stranger. Could have been no one at all and just a trick of the fog. The man hesitates. The officers press him. Height, hair, car, license plate, anything. All he can say, over and over, is this. I remember the way she looked back at the diner door like she almost changed her mind. A shadow in the parking lot. A girl who almost went back inside. An abandoned car on a dark road. The threads begin to twist, thin and fragile, leading nowhere. The chief orders the river dragged. He assigns extra patrols to drive Old Mill Road. He calls the county, the state, anyone who will listen. But it's a small town, limited resources. A missing waitress without money or connections doesn't stir the same urgency as a senator's daughter, a CEO's child. In Maple Falls, everyone knows someone who's gone away and never sent a postcard. But this is different. This is Emily. This is the girl who covered other people's shifts, who lent cigarettes she couldn't afford, who once patched up a kid's scraped knee in the parking lot and refused to take a tip for it. This hits home. The local paper runs a headline the next morning, black ink bleeding into cheap newsprint. Mysterious disappearance shocks Maple Falls. No one knows it yet, but that headline will yellow on bulletin boards and inside scrapbooks decades old and still raw, pinned next to school photos and missing posters that never got taken down. Back at the station, the anonymous call is replayed again and again. Grainy tape, static, a voice distorted by panic, or maybe something else. The audio expert from the state lab will later say he can't clean it up much more than that, but there is something strange in that 7-word sentence. Something off. A hesitation on the word need. A strain, like the caller is holding his breath, bracing. Like he knows what the officers will find on Old Mill Road and he knows it won't be enough. You need to get to Old Mill Road, not there's been an accident, not someone's hurt, Not, I saw something. Just an order. A warning. A breadcrumb dropped in the dark. In a town like Maple Falls, people cling to details. They debate them at barbershops and potlucks, in pews and parking lots. Who made that call? Why didn't he give his name? Why didn't he say more? Was he scared, guilty, trying to help, or was he standing right there watching the hazard lights blink, listening to the river whisper while he dialed with shaking hands? No one knows it yet, but that single anonymous call will become the beating heart of a cold case. The first line in a story that refuses to end. The sound people replay in their heads on sleepless nights, long after the tape has worn thin. The hours slip by. 12, 24, 48. The missing person report becomes an investigation. The investigation becomes a wall of photos, maps, scribbled notes, timelines, and red string in a cramped office that smells like coffee and stale air. A blue '89 Chevy Cavalier is held in an impound lot behind a chain-link fence, rainwater beating on its hood like tears. Emily's purse sits in an evidence bag, tagged and numbered, locked on a shelf. On Old Mill Road, tire tracks fade, fog rises. Leaves fall and cover that single partial shoe print until it's as if no one ever stood there at all. The town keeps moving. Kids go to school. The diner opens every morning at 6. The factory whistles at shift change. But underneath the routines and rituals, a question hangs in the air, heavy and unspoken. How does a girl vanish on a quiet Ohio road in 1991, leaving her whole life sitting there on the front seat? The answer, even 30-plus years later, will remain buried under layers of rumor, fear, and something darker until someone, somewhere, decides that this is the year the past finally talks back. Morning comes hard and gray over Maple Falls, the kind of Ohio sky that feels heavy enough to crush the rooftops. At the Carter house, the day doesn't start so much as shudder into motion. The phone keeps ringing. Reporters, relatives, neighbors pretending to check in, really just hungry for detail. In the kitchen, the coffee pot sits full and untouched, steam curling into the air while Emily's mother grips the edge of the counter like it might float away if she lets go. Her brother, 9 years old, sits at the table in a wrinkled t-shirt, staring at the empty chair across from him. The one where Emily usually dumps her bag, steals a piece of toast, kisses his hair, and runs out the door. The silence where that routine should be is louder than any siren. The chief arrives with 2 detectives in tow. One local, one from the county. The local is young, trying to look older. The county man is older, trying not to look tired. They stand in the living room under a framed school portrait of Emily, blue background, forced smile, eyes that seem to look straight through them now. They ask the questions, the ones that sound practical but cut like knives. What was she wearing? Did she say anything unusual before she left? Was there anyone new in her life? Did she argue with anyone recently? Did she ever mention Old Mill Road? Her mother shakes her head over and over, as if she can physically deny the reality by refusing to give it shape. Her father, face pale and set like stone, answers in clipped, polite phrases. He doesn't sit. He doesn't cry. He just stands, fingers digging into his palms, replaying the last time he saw his daughter. A wave from the doorway, a quick, "I'll be late, don't wait up," a slam of the screen, and wishing, with a bone-deep ache, that he'd said something more important than, "Lock the door behind you." At the diner, officers move like ghosts through the fluorescent-lit space, bagging napkins, scanning the booths, asking the staff to walk them through the night second by second. The manager rewinds the security tape, such as it is. Grainy, black and white, one camera pointed at the register, another at the parking lot. It's 1991. No digital clarity, no multiple angles, no audio, just static and flicker and shapes that barely qualify as faces. They watch Emily on the screen, serving, wiping, counting. They see her clock out at 1:47 a.m. They see her step outside, jacket pulled tight, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. They see her walk toward the parking lot and out of the frame. For 5 seconds, the camera catches a second figure on the edge of the lot, a dark blur, a hood, a pale oval that might be a face. Then the tape glitches, jumps, and when it steadies again, the space is empty. The county detective leans closer, pauses, rewinds, plays it again. The blur never sharpens into anything recognizable, just a suggestion of someone or something that doesn't belong. Back at the station, the walls start to fill up. A map of Maple Falls and the surrounding roads, Old Mill highlighted in yellow, a photograph of the blue Chevy, a smiling picture of Emily, cut from a school yearbook and taped to the center like a missing star. Around her, circles of handwritten notes, last known movements, phone calls, timelines. Officers argue over whether they should push the press harder, whether they should drag the river again, whether they should call in dogs from the next county over. They do all of it. Search parties line up on the edge of the woods, bright orange vests like fragile streaks of color against the damp brown earth. Volunteers from church, from the factory, from the high school. People who barely know Emily and people who know her too well. They move forward in rows, shoulders almost touching, eyes scanning the ground for anything that doesn't belong. A scrap of fabric, a shoe, a body. They find nothing. Local news trucks roll into town, heavy cameras and heavier questions. The first segment airs that evening, the anchor's voice serious and smooth over footage of the diner, the river, the flashing lights on Old Mill Road. Overlay text shouts in bold white font. Mystery on Old Mill Road, young woman missing, community on edge. At the grocery store, at the laundromat, people watch the broadcast with their mouths half open, hands frozen in mid-task. Seeing their quiet town on the 6 o'clock news feels wrong, like a private diary aired to the world. The story ends with Emily's school photo filling the screen, the anchor urging anyone with information to call the hotline. A phone number flashes at the bottom, bright and useless. Calls do come in. Some are genuine, people who think they saw a car parked near the diner, people who heard a scream they dismissed as a fox in the night, people who remember a stranger at the bar, a man with a scar on his neck, a woman with too red lipstick. Every detail is written down, logged, filed. The board in the squad room grows more cluttered, more desperate. Other calls are cruel. Crank callers, kids from 3 towns over, bored and looking for a thrill. Heavy breathing, ghost stories, someone claiming Emily ran away with a trucker, someone else insisting she joined a cult living in the woods. The chief listens, jaw clenched, and slams the receiver down harder each time. But one call is different. A woman's voice. Calm. Flat. She says she doesn't want to give her name. She says she doesn't know if what she heard matters. But she works nights at the small motel off the highway. She says that around 2:30 a.m., a man came in asking for a room. No luggage, no bags, just a wallet, a stare that lingered too long, shoes muddy up to the laces like he'd been walking somewhere he shouldn't. She remembers this not because of anything he said, but because as she slid the key across the counter, she noticed a smudge on his cuff, dark, irregular, not grease, not dirt. She thought it might be blood. The detectives move fast. They get the registry, a name that could be real or fake, an address that goes nowhere, a license plate number written in hurried, loose script. They watch the security tape from the motel, another grainy black and white feed, another blurred figure whose details dissolve when you try to focus too closely. They track the plate. It belongs to a truck last registered 2 years ago, never renewed, never reported stolen. A ghost vehicle. They look at the timestamp, 2:31 a.m. The motel is a 15-minute drive from Old Mill Road. The timeline tightens, drawing its noose. They ask the clerk if she heard anything else. A second voice, a woman, anyone in the car. She shakes her head. He came alone. He smelled like damp clothes and cigarettes. He stared at the missing poster on the wall for a few seconds too long before turning away. Yes, that's right. They had already taped up a missing poster in the motel lobby by then. Emily's face smiling underneath the words, "Have you seen this girl?" The detectives feel it. A pulse of something electric. Coincidence? Or a collision between predator and prey, one oblivious, one already haunted. They check the room he slept in. Sheets stripped, mattress lifted, bathroom scrubbed. They shine black lights and swab surfaces and pull fibers from the carpet. Forensics in 1991 is less miracle, more guessing game. But they try. They find a few hairs, some flakes of skin. Not enough. Never enough. The tests they run come back inconclusive, a word that will become a course in this investigation. Days pass, then weeks. Flyers go up on every lamppost, every bulletin board, every storefront. Emily's face multiplies, eyes following people through their routines. The town starts to adopt a new vocabulary. Tip line, search radius, person of interest, possible suspect. Headlines grow sharper. Missing waitress case baffles police. No new leads in Old Mill mystery family pleads. Bring Emily home. Rumors coil around every corner. Some point inward. Maybe it was someone she knew. A jealous ex. A secret lover. Someone at the diner who couldn't handle her saying no. Fingers start to hover over particular names. Regulars. Co-workers. That solitary man at the end of the counter. Her boss. Her neighbor. The boy who always walked her to her car and wasn't there that night. The police bring them all in. They sit in metal chairs under humming fluorescent lights, and the questions come. Where were you between 1 and 3 a.m.? Can anyone verify that? Did Emily ever seem afraid of you? Did she owe you money? Did you get into an argument? Did you ever drive Old Mill Road with her? Some are furious, some are terrified, some are insulted to be sitting there at all. A couple ask for lawyers. A couple sit silently, arms folded across their chests, eyes daring the detectives to push harder. Polygraphs are administered, lines and needles, sweat and pulse. The machine spits out its jagged graphs, and the experts squint at them, arguing over bumps and dips. Deception indicated. Results inconclusive. Nothing clean. Nothing that leads straight to a pair of handcuffs and a confession. Just more noise. One name keeps resurfacing. Not because he fails the polygraph, not because he has a record, he doesn't. Not because anyone saw him at Old Mill Road, no one did. His name floats to the surface again and again because of how it sounds in whispered conversations, the on-again, off-again boyfriend. Scott Miller, 20, works at the hardware store, played varsity football in high school, smiles easily, cracks jokes, drinks too much on weekends, has a temper he insists he's learned to control. He and Emily dated for a year, broke up 2 months before she vanished. Friends say it was mutual, others say it wasn't, depends who you ask and how much they like him. Detectives sit across from Scott in a cramped interview room. His hands are clasped tightly on the table. He answers questions in a low voice. He says he loved her. He says he'd never hurt her. He says yes, they argued, but who doesn't? They're young. They shouted, slammed doors, made up. He says he was at home the night she disappeared, watching TV with his dad. His dad backs him up. Still people talk. Someone claims they saw his truck near Old Mill Road once. Someone else swears Emily cried in the break room after a phone call from him. A neighbor remembers hearing shouting on the Carters' front lawn a few weeks before she vanished. A male voice and a female one, an engine revving, tires squealing. Scott becomes the unofficial prime suspect in the court of public opinion. His name never appears in the paper, not at first, but it threads through town like a curse. Mothers pull their daughters a little closer when he passes by. Old friends stop inviting him to poker nights. His coworkers avoid eye contact. He goes from being Scott, that kid from school, to, him. The police, though, know better than to hang a case on suspicion and gossip. They need evidence, physical, concrete, something that holds up in front of a judge, not just a crowd. They don't have it. The blue Chevy yields no fingerprints that shouldn't be there, no fibers that point anywhere but back at Emily and the diner. The styrofoam cup has her lipstick on it, nothing more. Her purse has no ransom note, no hidden diary entry revealing a forbidden love or a deadly secret. Just pay stubs, receipts, and a folded photo of her and her little brother on a summer day at the county fair, both of them wearing paper hats and sticky from cotton candy. The anonymous 2:13 a.m. call is traced as far as the phone company can take it, a public payphone outside a closed-down liquor store on the edge of town. No camera, no witnesses, just an empty parking lot and a rusted metal booth that smells like old cigarettes and lost chances. They dust it for prints. They find dozens layered over years, drunks, teenagers, strangers passing through, even the chief's own handprint from when he slammed the receiver down after yet another prank call. Nothing that says, here, this one, this is the man whose voice shook when he told you to get to Old Mill Road. Winter comes early that year. Snow falls over Maple Falls, softening edges, muffling sound. Old Mill Road becomes treacherous, ice hidden under slush. The diner decorates for the holidays, tinsel and string lights wrapped around a hollow ache. Emily's locker at work stays untouched. Her mother refuses to take down the flyers at the grocery store, taping new ones over the old when they curl or tear. The case file grows thicker, its spine straining. Witness interviews, lab reports, tip sheets, photographs of the river in every mood, misty, frozen, swollen with rain. The word that begins to whisper through the hallways is one everyone hates. Cold. A cold investigation is a story without an ending. It's questions that go unanswered, evidence that sits in labeled boxes on metal shelves. It's a clock that keeps ticking while the main event stays frozen on the same frame. No body, no confession, no trial, no justice, just rumors aging like bruises. By the time the new year rolls over into 1992, the media has moved on. New stories, new tragedies, a different missing person in a different state. Maple Falls slides back into obscurity, its 15 minutes of fame gone, replaced by 30 years of something much heavier. But some things don't move on. The Carters leave the porch light on every night, a silent beacon for a daughter who never walks back through the door. Emily's brother grows taller, quieter, angry in a way he doesn't know how to name. Scott tries to live his life under a cloud that doesn't dissipate. The woman at the motel still sees that man's muddy shoes in her dreams. In the evidence room, a sealed box sits on a metal shelf. Inside, a purse, a cassette tape from an '89 Chevy, a blurry motel surveillance VHS, a scrap of motel bedsheet with a faint dark stain, a swab from under a bathroom sink, a few strands of hair taped into clear plastic. On the outside, in black marker, 4 words and a date. Carter Emily, 1991. Below that, in smaller letters that weren't added until later, one more word. The one everyone starts using with a mix of resignation and hope, like a prayer or a headline. Cold. Cold cases don't freeze. They sink. They settle down into the dark, heavy and silent, while life piles on top of them like layers of dust. Maple Falls learns to live around the absence. At first, everything is about Emily. Candlelight vigils on the courthouse steps, prayer circles in church basements, flyers with fresh tape, corners crisp, ink still dark. Her name on the local radio every morning. Any information, no matter how small, call the hotline. For a while, the whole town breathes in sync with that plea. But time is relentless. Spring of '92 comes, a late thaw. The snow melts, revealing what the winter hid: crushed cans, broken branches, the cigarette butts of searchers who took short breaks and stared into the trees, wondering if they were missing something obvious. The river swells, brown and swollen, dragging branches and secrets downstream. They drag it again, just in case. Nothing. At the Carter house, birthdays come and go. Emily's mother refuses to bake a cake for a girl who isn't there to blow out the candles. Her father keeps buying a small bouquet every year on the day she disappeared and leaving it at the edge of Old Mill Road where the gravel meets the grass, where that lonely footprint once sat before the world trampled it. Neighbors stop by less often. Not out of cruelty, out of exhaustion, out of helplessness. How many times can you say, "We're praying for you," before the words feel like static? They still think about Emily when they drive past the diner, when they see a blue Chevy on the highway, when they hear a phone ring late at night. But they don't talk about her as much. Silence becomes its own ritual. At the station, the case file sits on a shelf near the chief's desk. It has weight. You feel it when you pick it up. Paper, photos, copies of copies. Officer reports from men who've since retired, moved away, or drunk themselves into early graves. Each new detective who joins the department hears about it within the first week. Someone points to the file, nods, and says, "That's the one that'll keep you up at night if you let it." Some don't let it. They learn to ignore that shelf. They tell themselves the odds. Most missing adults aren't found. Not alive, not identifiable, not at all. The river, the woods, the world is big, evidence is small. But one doesn't forget. The younger local detective from those early days, back then still breaking in his badge, now deeper lines around his eyes, hair thinning at the temples, keeps a copy of Emily's missing poster folded in his desk drawer. His name is Mike Harrigan. He has worked burglaries, bar fights, domestic calls, a couple of homicides that actually got wrapped up with verdicts and sentences. But this is the one that never made it to a courtroom. This is the one he still drives past at night, slowing down near Old Mill Road without even realizing he's doing it. He's there for every new possible lead. Summer '93. Hunters find bones in a shallow depression near the county line. The radio crackles, the call comes in, the squad room air turns thick, and for a few hours everyone moves faster, speaks sharper. Forensics is called, the area's taped off, reporters sniff around, maybe this is it, maybe this is the moment the waiting ends. It isn't. The bones belong to a deer, old, sun-bleached, mixed with scraps of rusted metal and bottle caps from teenagers' bonfires. The search team disperses. The chief curses the media under his breath for already drafting headlines. Harrigan drives home that night with his jaw clenched so tight it aches. Autumn '94. A fisherman 3 towns over hooks a tangle of fabric and hair from a slow part of the river. The water gives up a bundle that looks, at first glance, horribly human. The state lab takes it, tests it, compiles a report that takes 6 weeks to land back in Maple Falls. Animal hair, synthetic fibers, a discarded wig swollen with river water, a grotesque joke courtesy of whoever tossed it over a bridge years ago. Every time something like this happens, the town gets ripped open again. Every time it stitches itself shut, a little more scar tissue forming. By '95, the drunk jokes start. Not in front of the Carters, not on camera, but at bar stools and poker tables, in the corners of parties that run late. You know, maybe she just took off, got tired of this dump. Maybe she's in Florida. Maybe she met some rich guy. Laughter too loud, eyes that dart away. But underneath the bravado, the same question gnaws. If she just left, why that way? Why like a vanishing act with her life still sitting in the front seat? In that same year, a cable show about unsolved mysteries calls the Maple Falls PD. They want to feature Emily, they want the footage, the tape of the car, the map, the anonymous 911 call, they want the crying parents, the worried brother, the good-looking small-town detective, all the ingredients for a tidy segment that will air after a segment about a haunted house and before a piece about a fugitive bank robber. The chief hesitates. Media attention hasn't exactly delivered miracles so far, but Harrigan argues they need the exposure. Maybe someone, somewhere, saw that man at the motel. Maybe someone heard a story. Maybe a conscience has been nagging at someone for 4 long years, and the right voice coming out of a TV at the right time will finally crack it open. They do it. Camera crews arrive. They set up in the diner in the Carter living room on Old Mill Road at dusk, headlights off, red hazard lights blinking eerily for the dramatization. They ask Emily's mother to hold her daughter's photo and look into the lens. They ask her father to walk them through his last memory of seeing her. They ask Harrigan to stand in front of a bulletin board in the station, arms crossed, brow furrowed, and explain the case in sound bites. The episode airs on a Wednesday night. In Maple Falls, entire blocks are silent except for the low buzz of TVs tuned to the same channel. The reenactment is cheesy. The actor playing Harrigan looks nothing like him. The Emily stand-in doesn't capture her way of half smiling when nervous. The Old Mill Road on screen isn't the real one. It's some road in California lit for drama. But the voiceover works. The words hit. Mysterious disappearance. Small town in shock. Cold case. The hotline lights up after the broadcast. Tip after tip after tip. Most are wild. Someone insists they saw Emily at a bus station in Texas. Another caller claims the man at the motel was a known drifter they personally met in a bar in Toledo. A third says they recognized the voice on the anonymous 911 call as their ex-husband's, despite no evidence and a messy divorce. Still, the detectives sift. They call other jurisdictions, track down old addresses, request records. For months, every ring of the phone could be the one that cracks the ice. Every envelope in the mail could contain that one overlooked detail. Nothing sticks. The drifter in Toledo turns out to have been in jail in another state. The Texas bus station sighting is a girl who looks vaguely similar in bad lighting. The ex-husband's voice, when they quietly track him down and record him, doesn't match the cadence on the tape. Different fear, different edge. Meanwhile, life drags people in different directions. Scott Miller lasts until 96. By then, 4 long years of side eyes, whispers, and questions every time a new detective decides to revisit the boyfriend angle have worn him down. The hardware store hours get cut. His drinking gets worse. He gets into one bar fight too many, spends a night in a cell he never thought he'd see from the inside. The next week, his truck is gone. His rental house empty. A neighbor mentions a cousin in Indiana. Another says something about a job out west. He leaves no forwarding address. For many in Maple Falls, this is as good as a confession. Innocent people, they say, don't run. Innocent people don't leave behind their entire history to start over somewhere they can't be Googled with the words prime suspect attached. But the police, bound by reality, not rumor, have nothing more than they had the year she vanished. Circumstantial shadows and the shape of a motive that might not even be real. The years keep stacking. By 1998, Harrigan has a teenage daughter of his own. He watches her walk to her car at night and feels something knot in his chest. He insists she calls him when she gets where she's going, even if it's just a friend's house 2 streets over. When she rolls her eyes, he doesn't explain. He just says, "It's not you I don't trust. It's the gaps, the times nobody's looking." Around the same time, something starts to shift far outside Maple Falls, not in the diner, not on Old Mill Road, in labs, in state capitals, in the way science looks at old evidence. DNA, once a miracle reserved for headline-grabbing cases in big cities, is becoming routine. Not easy, not fast, but possible. The national database, CODIS, is growing. States are starting to collect DNA from more offenders, from more crime scenes, from more forgotten boxes of evidence gathering dust in storage rooms that smell like cardboard and time. Ohio's Bureau of Criminal Investigation sends out a memo. All agencies are encouraged to inventory their cold cases, identify any physical evidence that might contain biological material, blood, saliva, skin cells, hair with roots, fabrics with stains, anything that could be swabbed, tested, uploaded. Harrigan reads that memo and feels something flicker inside him he hasn't felt in a long time. He goes down to the evidence room. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. Shelves loom, stacked with boxes labeled in fading marker. Robberies, DUIs, assaults, a burglary from 1980 with a broken padlock sealed in a bag, a knife from a bar stabbing in 86, a revolver from a domestic dispute that ended badly in 89. And there, on the 3rd shelf from the bottom near the back, the box with the name he knows by heart. Carter, Emily, 1991, cold. He pulls it out, sets it on a metal table. The sound of cardboard scraping metal echoes louder in his ears than it should. He opens it carefully, like it might explode or crumble into dust. Inside, the objects are exactly as they were packed years before. The purse, slightly flattened, the leather stiff. The cassette tape, Sharpie scrawled with the title of some mixtape Emily was playing that night. The motel VHS copy. The bagged bedsheet scrap with that faint stain. The swabs from the motel bathroom. The taped strands of hair. The crime scene photos, edges curling, colors fading. Back in 91, these items were examined with the tools available. Blood type tests, fiber comparators, eyeball matches. It wasn't enough. But now, there's a new word bouncing around precincts. Profiling. A genetic fingerprint. A code in your cells that doesn't care if 20, 30 years have passed. It doesn't blur. It doesn't forget. It just waits, preserved in cotton and plastic. Harrigan signs the evidence out. He packs it with a care that borders on reverence. He drives it himself to the state lab. An hour and a half on the highway, the box belted into the passenger seat like a living thing. Outside, fields blur by, bare and brown under a flat sky. He keeps glancing at the box as if it might suddenly tell him everything. The lab is another world. White walls, stainless steel tables, people in lab coats moving with quiet efficiency. He fills out forms, answers questions, signs chains of custody. A technician with tired eyes and a ponytail opens the box, examines each item, and nods. "This is good," she says. "You kept it clean, cool, dry. We'll see what we can pull." "How long?" Harrigan asks. She gives the kind of shrug that says she's been asked this too many times. There's a backlog. New cases always jump the line. Murders with active trials, rapes with ticking statutes of limitations, armed robberies with suspects in custody. Cold cases are important, yes, but so is everything else. He leaves the box there. On the drive back, he feels lighter and heavier at the same time. He's done something he couldn't do in 91. He's put the past into motion again, but he's also handed his hopes to machines, to enzymes, to overworked analysts, and institutional delays. Months pass, then more. Every time the mail cart rattles past his desk, he looks up. Every time a clerk drops an envelope on his pile, his pulse kicks. Most of the time, it's nothing but parking ticket disputes and lab results for cases that started last week, not last decade. Maple Falls rolls into the late 90s. The diner swaps its jukebox for a CD player. The gas station finally upgrades its pumps. Kids start carrying pagers, then the first clunky cell phones. The world is changing in small ways. But Old Mill Road looks the same. The trees, the mist, the river that doesn't care what year it is. Then one damp day, a padded envelope arrives from the state lab. Harrigan signs for it with a hand that doesn't feel like his. He sits at his desk, he closes the door, he opens the envelope. Inside, a multi-page report. Dense, technical, charts and codes, words like alleles and loci and partial profile obtained. He doesn't understand every number, every acronym, but the summary is clear. They've pulled something. From the bedsheet scrap, from the bathroom swab, a male DNA profile, partial but strong enough to upload, not Emily's, not the motel clerks, not any of the officers who stepped into that room in 91. A third party, a ghost given a genetic outline. CODIS hit? None, not yet. At the bottom, a simple line. Profile entered into national database. No matches at this time. Will be continuously compared as new entries are added. It's not an answer, but it's a fingerprint pressed into the fog. A shape emerging, a promise that somewhere, out there, in a prison intake swab or a discarded cigarette butt waiting to be tested, the other half of that code might exist. Harrigan leans back in his chair, the report shaking slightly in his hand. For the first time in years, he doesn't see Old Mill Road as a dead end. He sees it as a beginning that hasn't caught up to its ending yet. The case is still cold, the town still whispers, the Carters still leave the light on. But hidden now in wires and servers, in lab freezers and sample tubes, in a database, quietly humming in some windowless room far from Maple Falls, a new piece of the puzzle waits. It doesn't care about rumor. It doesn't care who the town likes or hates. It doesn't care who moved away and who stayed. DNA has no loyalty. It only tells the truth when someone finally asks the right question. And in Ohio, 1991 is no longer just a date on an old case file. It's a code, it's a waiting match, it's the start of a chain reaction that years later will detonate through Maple Falls like a bomb. The thing about a cold case is that it doesn't care what year it is. It just sits there waiting while the calendar changes and people pretend they've moved on. By the early 2000s, Maple Falls looks different on the surface. There's a new strip mall out near the highway. The factory that once employed half the town has cut down to one shift. Kids carry flip phones, text under their desks, download songs instead of feeding quarters into a jukebox. The diner has a fresh coat of paint, a new neon sign, and a younger manager who wasn't even living in Maple Falls when Emily Carter walked out into the fog and never came back. But if you stand on Old Mill Road at 2 in the morning, it's the same. Same curve in the asphalt, same trees leaning in, branches like fingers, same river crawling by, slow and black. If you turn off your engine and step out, you can hear your own breathing, your own heartbeat, and something else underneath. An old echo, a leftover fear that refuses to rot. In the station, the Emily Carter file is no longer the newest, the heaviest, or the loudest. Other tragedies have come and gone. A carjacking gone wrong in 99, a suspicious fire in an abandoned house in 02, an overdose spike that keeps paramedics running, but the Carter file, it's a constant. Some officers don't want to touch it. They call it cursed, half joking, half not. Others flip through it now and then the way some people reread an old letter, not sure what they're hoping to see. Harrigan, now a sergeant with deeper lines and a habit of rubbing his temples when he thinks, keeps the lab letter about the DNA profile pinned inside the front flap like a talisman. The national database hums along, invisible, far from Maple Falls. Every week, every month, states upload new profiles. Convicted offenders, arrestees in some jurisdictions, unidentified samples from crime scenes. Thousands, then tens of thousands, then millions of strings of numbers lining up in digital rows, each one a silent story waiting for a match. For years, Emily's case file gets the same status update from the lab. No hit. It's like a drumbeat. Regular, flat, a single phrase stamped at the bottom of form letters that arrive every time Harrigan nudges, calls, emails, and asks if the system has found her ghost yet. No hit, no hit, no hit. He keeps them all. At home, life has rewritten itself around an absence that still feels like a missing puzzle piece you can't stop reaching for. Emily's brother Danny is no longer the quiet 9-year-old at the kitchen table. He's in high school now, sullen and sharp, his eyes older than his age. He has the same half-smile as his sister, but he rarely uses it. The town sees him as the Carter boy, the one whose sister vanished. Teachers give him extra leeway or extra scrutiny. It depends on their own fear tolerance. Some adults speak to him slowly, carefully, as if he might break if they say the wrong word. Others avoid him completely, like the curse might be contagious. He walks past the missing poster that still hangs, yellowed and curling, on the bulletin board at the grocery store. He doesn't look at it, but he knows every pixel of that photo by heart. He hears the way kids whisper when they think he's not paying attention. He hears the theories spat out secondhand from parents who should know better. She ran off. Scott did it. Some drifter. Check the river again. He develops a habit of staying out late, not at parties, not with friends, just driving, back roads, dead ends, places his parents begged him not to go. He tells himself he's just burning gas, letting his brain go quiet. But when his hands turn the wheel toward Old Mill Road, when his headlights catch the curve and the trees and that same stretch of gravel, he doesn't turn around. He parks where Emily's car once sat. He steps out, listens. Nothing except the river, the wind, a distant dog barking. He closes his eyes and tries to imagine what she saw, what she felt, who she talked to. He thinks about the anonymous caller, that man in the motel, the boyfriend everyone still side-eyes. He thinks about how everyone still calls her missing, like she just took a wrong turn and might walk back in any minute, covered in apologies and dust. He knows better. Meanwhile, outside this small town, the world is getting noisier. True crime becomes entertainment. TV shows, paperbacks, internet message boards where strangers with usernames instead of faces dissect police reports, timelines, and grainy photos from cases they've never set foot in. With the cable episodes still floating around in reruns and VHS copies, Emily's case starts to drift into that ecosystem. Someone posts about the Maple Falls waitress on an early crime forum. They share what they can find. The old newspaper scans, the reenactment clip, the blurry still of the blue Chevy on Old Mill Road. They speculate, they draw maps, they compare the case to other disappearances on lonely highways and dark roads. Most of them get details wrong. They move times around, they invent facts, they turn real people into characters for their narrative theories. But buried in the noise, every once in a while, something real surfaces. An ex-truck driver chimes in. Says he used to stay at that same highway motel, that he remembers the clerk with the sharp eyes and the coffee breath. He says that around 91, there was talk among the drivers about a guy who made people uneasy. A man who always wanted a room at the back. A man with mud on his shoes and a way of scanning the parking lot like he was counting exits. He can't remember a name, just a feeling. He gave me the creeps, and I've hauled in and out of some rough places. It's nothing Harrigan hasn't already wondered about. But now the case isn't just living in his office and on the Carter Street. It's out there, floating between strangers. And one of those strangers does something that will matter later. They download the episode, rip a low-quality video file, and keep it. Back in Ohio, the case stirs again in 2004 when the state announces a new push. A dedicated cold case unit, more funding for DNA testing, a review of unsolved homicides and suspicious missing persons. Emily's file makes the list. Harrigan drives to Columbus for a meeting in a conference room that smells like coffee and dry erase markers. On the walls, projected screens flick between case numbers, victim photos, maps. Faces stare back, men, women, kids, some cases older than Emily's, some newer, all frozen. A woman from the Attorney General's office speaks. She talks about technology, about perseverance, about never giving up, the usual phrases. But behind her words, there's weight. There are tools now they didn't have when the Carter file was first opened and everyone was wearing thick mustaches and feathered hair. Harrigan hands over copies of the latest lab results. The state cold case detective assigned to Emily's file is a man in his 30s with sharp eyes and ink stains on his fingers from constantly scribbling notes. His name is Jason Rowe. He wasn't a cop when Emily vanished. He was a high school kid in another county hearing about the Maple Falls waitress like everyone else did, from the television. Now it's on his desk. Rowe visits Maple Falls, walks through the station, the diner, Old Mill Road. He meets the Carters. He shakes Danny's hand. Now a young man in his 20s, he sees the exhaustion behind the politeness, the way grief calcifies into a kind of wary detachment. "We're not asking for miracles," Emily's father says, voice low. "We just want something that isn't silence." Rowe nods. He says he's read the whole file twice. He says the anonymous call bothers him. So does the motel man. So does the boyfriend. So does the complete absence of witnesses on a road that should have had at least one passing car. He re-interviews everyone he can still find. The motel clerk now has streaks of gray in her hair and glasses perched on her nose. She still remembers the night clearly. The muddy shoes, the smudge on the cuff, the way he stared at the missing poster. Rowe asks her things no one asked in 91. Which direction did he come from when he walked in? Could you see where he parked? Did he use a credit card or cash? Did he sign the register with his left or right hand? She closes her eyes to think. She remembers cash. She remembers the scratch of pen on paper. Right hand, she thinks. She remembers he kept his other hand stuffed deep in his jacket pocket. It might mean nothing. It might mean everything. Roe writes it down anyway. He hunts for the original motel registry, the blue carbon copy sheets with names, plate numbers, signatures. It takes days of phone calls, a trip out to a storage unit behind the now renovated motel, and a lot of dust and cobwebs, but he finds it. The name from that night is the same as in the file. The plate number the same. The signature, jagged, almost illegible, stands out less now that it's surrounded by dozens of others. Roe stares at it for a long time, then has it scanned, enhanced, compared. Fake names leave real handwriting. Somewhere, he's hoping, that same hand signed another document, a traffic ticket, a job application, a lease, but the trail goes nowhere. The truck's old registration still dead ends at a P.O. box with a lapsed payment and no forwarding info. Roe looks at Scott, too. He tracks him down through DMV records and an old employer's W-2. Scott did leave the state, bounced around. Construction jobs, odd work, nothing stable, no convictions more serious than a couple of disorderly conducts and a DUI. Roe shows up on a job site in another state, finds him in a hard hat and a worn-out t-shirt, face older but recognizable. The conversation that follows is strained, heavy. Scott is tired of this shadow, tired of being the boyfriend in other people's minds. He agrees, reluctantly, to answer questions again. Roe pushes, "Where were you really that night? Have your storylines shifted over the years? Why did you leave Maple Falls when you did?" Scott says the same thing he said in the 90s, just with less swagger and more weariness. He was at home, he says, with his dad, watching a game. He left town because you can't breathe when everywhere you go people are wondering if you killed someone you loved. Then Roe asked the question no one could ask with any point back in 91. "Will you give us a DNA sample?" Scott stares at him. For a long time, the only sound is the clatter of construction echoing from the steel skeleton of the building rising around them. Then he laughs once, short and bitter. "You think if it was me, I'd let you swab my cheek?" "I think if it wasn't you," Roe says quietly, "you'd want me to." Silence. Then Scott shrugs. "Fine, do it. Maybe then they'll stop looking at me like I'm a ghost." The sample goes off to the lab. Weeks later, the result comes back. The unknown male DNA from the motel, not Scott. It should feel like a victory. It doesn't. It just removes one branch from a sprawling tree of awful possibilities. The town won't see the report. They won't read the line that says, "excluded as a contributor at all tested loci." They'll still talk. They'll still remember him leaving, the arguments, the old suspicions. Roe keeps going. He looks at the anonymous call again. Technology has changed there too. Audio analysis is more advanced. Voice pattern recognition is a thing now, even if it's still more art than science. He sends the original recording and every backup copy they made to a specialist. The report that comes back months later is like the others, dense, clipped, careful. It talks about noise floors and signal-to-noise ratio, about insufficient clarity for a positive identification. But there are details hidden in the technical language. Male, mid-range pitch, Midwestern accent, age at time of call estimated late 20s to early 40s, no obvious slur, impairment, or speech impediment. And something else, a line that makes Roe's skin crawl. Speaker demonstrates controlled breathing inconsistent with spontaneous panic. Intonation suggests rehearsed phrase or deliberate modulation. In plain English, he didn't sound like someone stumbling on an accident. He sounded like someone who planned what he was going to say before he dialed. "You need to get to Old Mill Road." Not "please help," not "I found a car," a directive, a stage cue. Roe takes that to Harrigan. They sit in the squad room long after everyone else has gone home, the glow of a desk lamp turning the papers yellow. "So we're back to what?" Harrigan says. "He was trying to help without getting involved, or he was, playing with us?" "If he was playing," Roe says, "he wanted that car found. He wanted us there. The question is, did he think we'd find more than we did?" They stare at the evidence photos again, the neat car, the purse, the single footprint, the line where the headlights cut into the fog. Roe starts to entertain a theory he hates. What if Old Mill Road wasn't the crime scene? What if it was just the stage, the drop, the place the killer wanted them to look while something else, somewhere else, stayed hidden? He looks back at the motel, at the timeline, at the 15 minutes between the call and the man checking in with mud on his shoes and a stain on his cuff. 15 minutes is enough time to do a lot of things if you know exactly what you're doing. In 2007, the state cold case unit sends another update. The unknown male DNA profile from the motel room has been compared again and again against the ever-growing CODIS database. Still no match, but the analyst adds a note. Profile suitable for future advanced searching techniques, including potential familial indexing if authorized. Familial. Looking not for the man himself, but for his relatives, brothers, sons, cousins. People who share enough of his code to light up the database like a distant flare. Controversial, legally thorny, not universally available, but promising. Ohio doesn't fully open that door yet. Lawyers argue. Privacy advocates push back. Politicians weigh votes against victims. Science waits in the wings, ready. In Maple Falls, none of that debate shows on the surface. People are more worried about their mortgages, their kids, the factory cutting another line. But in an office with a crooked blinds cord, two detectives from two different eras keep reading memos with words like familial searching, advanced kinship analysis, YSTR profiling. The feeling is back. Not hope exactly. Hope is too soft a word. More like pressure, like something buried under concrete beginning to crack, hairline fractures spreading invisibly, waiting for the right weight to bring the whole thing down. The case is still officially cold. The box is still just cardboard and labels. The old headlines are still yellow on the Carter family's fridge. But somewhere in Ohio, test tubes clink, servers hum, algorithms crunch through numbers that used to be letters on a page. Somewhere in a lab freezer, in a line of code, the man with muddy shoes and a quiet voice is closer to being dragged into the light than he has ever been. He doesn't know it. No one in Maple Falls knows it. All they know is that 18 years have passed since a blue Chevy sat on Old Mill Road, hazard lights blinking in the fog like a heartbeat slowing down. And then, in 2009, in a county 40 miles away, a different kind of investigation quietly adds a new DNA profile to the database, a profile that will, years later, slam into the Emily Carter file like two cars colliding on a blind curve. It starts, like so many things in Ohio, with a broken window. Different county, different town, different year. Late 2009 now. Most people who still think about Emily Carter do so in passing, when they see an old missing poster in a box of forgotten junk, when they drive Old Mill Road at night and feel their hand tighten on the wheel for no good reason. In Maple Falls, the diner has a new set of booths and a younger crowd that doesn't know why the older waitress flinches whenever a young woman walks alone out to her car. 40 miles away, in a town that looks just like Maple Falls if you squint, a house sits at the end of a cul-de-sac, neatly trimmed lawn, plastic toys scattered on the front porch, a porch light that burns out more often than its owner remembers to change it. A place nobody would pick out of a lineup of American suburbs. It's after midnight when the resident, a single mother, early 30s, two kids asleep down the hall, hears the sound. Glass, a sharp crack then a soft crush, not a dropped plate, not the cat, something in the kitchen. Her first thought is a branch from the tree outside, the second is worse. She moves through the dark house with the heavy humming dread of someone who doesn't want to be right. Her phone is in her hand, thumb hovering over 911, but she doesn't press it yet. People don't want to be dramatic. They don't want to wake the neighbors. They don't want to be the story. In the kitchen, the cold air hits her. Window over the sink, shattered, curtains fluttering in a night breeze that smells like wet leaves and cigarettes, the floor glittering with shards, and there, on the tile, a shape half in, half out of the window frame. A man, gloved hands, dark jacket, mask pulled up just enough to show his mouth, lips drawn thin. He's stuck for a second, one leg tangled, one hand braced awkwardly, cursing under his breath. She doesn't scream, not at first. The moment stretches. Two paths open in her brain, run or freeze. And for one stupid second, she chooses neither. She just stares, taking in details she'll later repeat to detectives. The way he moves, low and deliberate. The way he doesn't say a word to her, even as she backs away, heart pounding. Then he lunges. She runs. The phone finally hits, 911. A call goes out. A dispatcher in yet another dim room hears panic, this time unscripted, unrehearsed, raw, address, intruder, children in the house, hurry. By the time police arrive, the man is gone. He left the way he came in, through broken glass and cold air, but not clean, not this time. There's blood on the edge of the window frame where he sliced his arm, pulling back through in a rush. There's blood on the tiles where he landed badly the first time. Smears where his glove slipped, drops like punctuation marks trailing into the yard. Officers secure the scene. The kids, somehow, sleep through all of it. The woman shakes under a blanket on the couch, giving statements, voice catching only when she remembers that for a few seconds she was between a stranger and her children's bedroom doors. Evidence techs move in. Gloves, swabs, photos, measurements. Not perfect. No scene ever is, but careful. They bag glass. They bag the curtain with a smear on the hem. They swab the frame, the floor, the small streak on the fridge where his elbow clipped. There was a time when this would have been logged as a simple attempted burglary. Another marker on a crime map. Broken window, victim scared, no one hurt, suspect unknown. But it's 2009. DNA is no longer a miracle reserved for big cities. It's part of the playbook. The blood goes to the lab. The system is more streamlined now. Technicians run the sample, feed the results into the machines, watch the peaks and valleys on the screen. The profile that comes back is crisp, male, strong, high quality. Whoever he is, he bled enough to leave a clear genetic echo. They check him against their local suspects first. Nothing, no match. Protocol kicks in. The profile goes up the chain. State database, then CODIS, another numeric barcode in a sea of millions, another ghost added to the ghost registry. Weeks later, the local detective on that case gets a call. The intruder's DNA profile, it's now in the system. No immediate hit, but it's there, waiting. If this man ever gets arrested for something serious, if his DNA is collected in another state, if a relative of his ends up in the database, the machine will notice. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually. The attempted break-in becomes a case file. It gets a number. It gets a thin manila folder that slides into a cabinet and settles between other thin manila folders. It's not front-page news. There are no vigils, no TV crews, no reenactments. The woman upgrades her locks and adds a second motion light. She moves her kids into the same bedroom for a while. She jumps at every sound. The man who bled on her floor goes back to his life, wherever that is. Maybe he changes his routes for a bit. Maybe he lays low. Maybe he doesn't. People like him often believe they're invisible until the moment they're not. In Maple Falls, no one hears about that case. They're busy with their own lives. Harrigan is older now, staring down the back half of his career. His daughter has moved out, gone to college, calls once a week, promises she's being careful. He pretends not to track her campus's crime stats anyway. He still drives past Old Mill Road more often than the average man. Sometimes he stops, kills the engine, sits there in the dark, watching his headlights fade from the trees, listening to the river chew on the bank. In those moments, he can almost hear the faint echo of hazard lights ticking in the fog, even though the road is empty. Danny Carter is not a boy anymore. He's pushing 30, working odd jobs, carrying his sister's absence like an extra organ in his chest. He tried leaving Maple Falls once. Lasted 2 years before something dragged him back. He tells people it was family. Sometimes he admits late at night that he felt like he was abandoning her ghost. He and Harrigan share something now, time. They've both been living with the unsolved longer than they lived without it. It shapes their reflexes, their fears, their patience, or lack of it. On some level, they've both stopped expecting a knock on the door with answers. Then the state quietly flips a switch. It's early 2010 when Ohio signs off on a broader use of DNA tools. Familial searches, Y chromosome analysis. The legal arguments and policy debates happen in rooms far from Maple Falls, under fluorescent lights, behind polished wood tables. Lawyers argue about privacy. Lawmakers talk about balance. Lobbyists push numbers and narratives. All Harrigan sees is a memo. Expanded capabilities, it says. Limited pilot program. Cold cases involving homicide and forcible sexual assault may be considered for advanced familial DNA searches upon request. He doesn't bother to finish his coffee before he's on the phone to Roe. Tell me we're on that list, he says. Roe is already ahead of him. Submitting it today, he says. Carter case, high priority. The process isn't instant. Nothing in this world is. The cold case unit compiles a packet, the original unknown male profile from the motel room linked to Emily's disappearance, the case summary, the argument that this qualifies as serious enough. The formality is maddening but necessary. Someone somewhere stamps it approved. The lab pulls the old profile back up on their screens. They've come a long way since the first run. New kits, more loci examined, finer resolution. They retest what they can from the original evidence, the bedsheet scrap, the swabs, anything that might yield more hierarchical data. They're careful. Evidence this old is fragile. You don't get second chances if you burn it all chasing miracles. When they have the best version of the unknown male profile they can get, they feed it into the system in a new way. Not asking, is this man already here? Asking, is anyone genetically close to him here? The servers go to work. It's not like in the movies. No dramatic beeping, no spinning DNA helix on a big screen, just algorithms grinding through data and background processes, comparing patterns, looking for overlaps. Parents and children share around 50% of their DNA. Siblings share, on average, the same. Cousins share less, but still more than strangers. Somewhere in that web, the system is looking for someone whose genetic code hums in tune with the motel ghost. Days, then weeks. Roe checks in, but he knows better than to hover. Harrigan pretends he's not waiting, but his eyes flick to the clock more often. In the Carter house, they don't know any of this is happening. Hope has burned them before. The state has learned not to raise expectations until there's something solid to lay on the table. Then, in a lab that's never seen Maple Falls, a number blips onto a screen. Not a direct match, not a flashing red character screaming found, but a partial match, strong, statistically significant. A relative. The lab calls the cold case unit. The cold case unit calls Roe. Roe calls Harrigan. Harrigan feels the world narrow to the sound of his own breathing and a voice on the other end of the line saying words he has waited nearly 20 years to hear. We've got a lead, Roe says. Familial hit, male, in the database from an attempted burglary in 2009, 40 miles out. He's too young to be our motel guy back in 91. But DNA doesn't lie. Whoever came through that window, he's carrying part of our guy with him. They pull the file. The 2009 break-in. The blood on the kitchen tiles, the terrified mother, the case that never made it past the local blotter. The suspect was never caught. No arrest, no face, no name. But the DNA from his blood made it into CODIS as an unknown suspect. It sits there, a lonely profile, until the familial search lights it up. The analyst's report uses careful language, high probability of a first-degree paternal relationship. Translation: the man who bled on that floor is likely the son of the man in the motel room with mud on his shoes and a stain on his cuff the night Emily vanished. The motel ghost had a kid. That kid grew up, climbed through someone else's window, left his blood behind, and unknowingly handed the state a rope tied directly back to 1991. Now all they have to do is find him. Roe drives out to the 2009 victim's neighborhood. He canvasses again. Years late, he shows up at doors with a badge and a tired smile, asking people to remember a night most of them filed away as that scary thing that happened to the woman down the block. Some shrug, some close the door quickly, some remember a car they didn't recognize, a porch light that flicked on, a dog that wouldn't stop barking. He talks to the victim again. She remembers more than she realized, the way the man moved, his height, his build, early 20s she thinks back then, maybe late teens. The way he hesitated when he saw her, like he hadn't expected her to be there at all, like his script had gone off the rails for a second. Roe gets a composite sketch artist to sit with her. It's been years, but trauma has a way of burning faces into memory. The sketch that emerges is generic in some ways. Short hair, average features, but there's something about the eyes. Flat, dark, focused on something beyond the person in front of him. A report goes out to surrounding agencies. They run the composite against driver's license photos, mugshots. They look for young men from that area, that time, who had any brush with the law, even minor. Trespassing, vandalism, suspicious person calls. It's painstaking, dull work, hours in front of a screen, scrolling, cross-referencing ages and addresses and old incident reports. Most of it leads nowhere. Then one report stands out. A 2011 traffic stop. Routine. Broken taillight. Young man behind the wheel. Nervous. Too nervous for a simple warning. The officer noted his name, his address, his parents' address. He also noted something else in the margin, the kind of detail that seemed meaningless then and explosive now. Subject's father arrived on scene. Overly defensive, refused to let son answer additional questions, insisted on leaving immediately. Logged plate number of father's truck, older model, Ohio plates, minor rust, back bumper dented. The son's name is one Roe has never heard before. The father's name is too. But when the lab runs the son's profile, taken from a swab after he was later arrested for a separate misdemeanor, against the unknown suspect from the 2009 blood, they click. Same person. The young man who climbed through the broken window, the son of the motel ghost, the living bridge between 2009 and 1991. They have a name now. Not just unknown male on a lab report, not just a string of numbers. A real name, an address, a father who hovered at a traffic stop like he had something to hide. Roe prints the report, the profile, the incident summary. He drives to Maple Falls, walks into Harrigan's office, sets the folder down between them. This, he says quietly, is how your cold case starts to thaw. Outside, the town looks the same. The diner, the church, the quiet streets. But on a map laid out between two detectives, a new line is drawn. From a broken kitchen window in 2009, back through a motel room in 1991, back to a car on Old Mill Road where the hazard lights blinked in the fog, waiting for someone to finally see the whole pattern. For the first time, the man in the motel isn't just a shadow. He's a father. He has a face somewhere. And through his son's blood on someone else's floor, he has left a trail that no amount of time can erase. They don't knock right away. First, they sit in an unmarked car at the end of the street and watch. It's a weekday afternoon in late fall, the kind of Ohio day that can't decide if it wants to rain or just hang a damp chill over everything. Children's bikes on lawns, a dog barking somewhere out of sight, mailboxes leaning at slight angles, dented by years of careless bumpers. Roe has the file open on his lap, the son's name underlined, his DMV photo clipped to the top. The kid's face is young, smooth, cocky in the way only someone who hasn't lived through consequences can be. But it's the second page that matters more now, the father's name, scribbled on that old traffic stop report, linked now in quiet, deadly ink to 1991. Harrigan sits beside him, older hands gripping the steering wheel so tight the leather creaks. He's done this hundreds of times, watched suspects' houses, waited for the right moment, but there's a tremor in his chest he can't slow. "This is it?" he asks, voice low. "This is really it?" Roe doesn't answer right away. He watches the house. Single story, beige siding, storm door with a rip in the screen, truck in the driveway, older model, Ohio plates, rust blooming around the wheel wells, back bumper dented exactly where that traffic stop note said it was. A worn American flag flaps lazily from a crooked pole near the porch. A man is on the front step, smoking, mid-50s now, broad shoulders gone soft under a thick flannel shirt, short hair going gray at the temples. He looks like half the men in Ohio, the kind of guy you nod to at the gas station without ever asking his name. Ordinary, forgettable, invisible. "That's the problem," Roe finally answers. "It's something," he says, "and something is more than we've had in 19 years. The man flicks his cigarette into a flower bed and goes back inside. A porch light clicks on even though it's still daytime. Habit. or paranoia, or both. They wait another few minutes, not for tactical reasons, just because crossing that small stretch of asphalt feels like stepping off a cliff. When they finally do, the world shrinks to the sound of their footsteps on the walkway. Harrigan feels every year between 1991 and now line up behind him like a crowd. The car on Old Mill Road, the crying mother, the motel room, the lab letters, the no-hits, the faces of officers who have retired, transferred, died, all with this case still sitting, unsolved, on a shelf. Roe knocks. It's a simple sound, hollow, wooden, but inside it lands like a crack in the surface of a frozen lake. Silence, then movement, curtain stir, a shadow shifts. The door opens a few inches, chain catching. Yes, the man says. Up close, the details sharpen. Lines around the eyes, stubble on the chin, a small, pale scar along the right jawline, the faint smell of old smoke and motor oil drifting out with the indoor air. His gaze sweeps over their badges, over their faces, then settles into a wary narrow. Mr. Hale? Roe asks. The name they pulled from the report. The name that links father to son, son to blood, blood to motel, motel to Old Mill Road. The man hesitates just a fraction of a second. It's small, but Harrigan has built a career on noticing small things. Yeah, the man says. That's me. Roe holds his ID a little higher, lets the weight of the state seal do some of the talking. I'm Detective Jason Roe, Ohio Attorney General's office, he says. This is Sergeant Mike Harrigan, Maple Falls PD. We'd like to ask you a few questions. Hale's eyes tick from one face to the other, then to the street behind them, checking for more cars, more uniforms, the quiet perimeter that says this isn't some casual chat. What about, he asks. Roe doesn't mention Emily's name. Not yet. There's a rhythm to this. You don't throw all your cards on the first breath. You ease in. We're following up on an old investigation, he says. We're also looking into a more recent incident in a neighboring county. It'd be better if we talked inside. Don't want to talk, Hale says quickly. A little too quickly. I don't know anything about whatever this is. I got nothing to say. He moves to shut the door. Roe doesn't stick his foot in, doesn't shove. He just says 2 words. It's about your son. The chain stops mid-rattle. Hale's hand tightens on the edge of the door. His jaw works. A flicker of something. Fear, anger, calculation passes behind his eyes. He opens the door, unhooks the chain, steps back. The house smells like old coffee and something fried days ago. TV on in another room. Low. The remnants of a life scattered around. Boots by the door, a coat rack with one too many hats, a table with a pile of unopened mail. Hale leads them to a small living room. Sinks into an armchair that has a permanent indentation in the cushion. He doesn't offer them seats, but they take them anyway on the sagging couch opposite. The TV shows some daytime talk show, 2 people arguing with mics in their hands. Hale mutes it with a jab at the remote, but doesn't turn it off. What did he do? Hale asks finally. His voice is rough around the edges. He in trouble again? Again. The word hangs there like a confession all by itself. Roe meets his gaze. We're looking at an incident from 2009, he says. A break-in, a house, a woman. Someone came through her kitchen window. Your son's DNA was recovered at the scene. Hale's face goes very still, the way some people freeze when they're trying to decide if run or fight is the better play. That was years ago, he says. Cops already came around about that. Didn't have proof of nothing. We do now, Roe says softly. We're not here to talk about his charges. We're here because his DNA led us to something older. He lets that hang. Hale swallows. His gaze flits to the TV, to the muted figures yelling silently, then back. Older how, he asks. 19 years, a blue Chevy, a motel room. Harrigan clears his throat. His voice, when he speaks, sounds like gravel. Mr. Hale, he says, do you remember staying at a little highway motel off Route 17 in late October of 1991? Hale blinks. For the first time since they walked in, genuine confusion scrapes across his face. That's a long time ago, he says. I've stayed in a lot of crappy motels in my life. Why would I remember one? Because, Harrigan says, sliding a photocopy across the coffee table, you signed your name in the registry. A blown-up copy of the motel ledger. His signature, jagged and defensive, sits there in black and white. Beside it, a plate number, the approximate time, 2:31 a.m. Hale stares at it. Then he snorts. Could be anybody's writing, he says, and that's just a name. My name's not exactly rare. Roe takes something else from the folder, a photo, grainy still from the motel's ancient camera, a man walking across the lobby. The face is blurred, distorted by old tape and bad lighting, but the shape is there. Broad shoulders, short hair, the way he holds his head. He holds it up, doesn't say, this is you, just lets Hale look. Hale does, for a little too long. What do you remember about that night, Roe asks. I told you I don't, Hale says. It's 30 years back, for Christ's sake. You remember where you were living then, Harrigan asks. What job you had, who you were seeing? Why does it matter? Hale snaps, finally letting some heat rise in his voice. You drag up some ancient motel slip and barging in here, talking about my kid, about some break-in, now about where I slept in 91. What are you saying exactly? Roe doesn't raise his voice. We're saying that on the night a 19-year-old woman disappeared from Maple Falls, he says. Your name shows up at a motel 15 minutes from where her car was found. And in that room, we recovered DNA from an unknown male. 19 years later, we get a partial match to that unknown profile, your son. Hale's hand clenches on the armrest. The fabric creaks. That doesn't mean anything, he says, but the words come out smaller. You got your science twisted. My boy wasn't even born then. We know, Roe says. We're not saying he was there in 91. We're saying the DNA from that room and the DNA from your son are closely related, father and son, uncle and nephew, some close male bloodline. Hale looks like he wants to stand up, to loom, to shout them out of his house. But he doesn't. He sinks deeper into the chair instead, as if something heavy has settled on his shoulders. You got a warrant? He demands. Not yet, Roe says. Right now we're talking. Right now we're giving you the chance to explain why your name is in that book, why your son's blood leads us back to that room, why a clerk still remembers seeing a man that night with mud on his shoes and what she thought looked like blood on his sleeve. Hale's eyes flash to him. She told you that? He whispers. Back then, Harrigan says, we just couldn't prove what it meant. For a long moment, no one speaks. The muted talking heads on the TV throw their hands in the air, arguing in a world with no sound. A clock ticks in the hallway. Somewhere a faucet drips. Where were you working in 91? Roe asks quietly. We're going to find out anyway. We'll talk to your boss, your coworkers. We'll pull time cards if they exist. We'll check your old addresses. We'll map every place you were. If you were nowhere near Maple Falls, if there's an explanation, this is your chance. Hale swallows again. His jaw moves. You can almost see the gears turning. I did deliveries, he says finally. Back then. Drove loads for a guy who paid cash. No company name you'd recognize. Went where they told me. Could have been near there, sure. Could have been at that motel. Doesn't mean I did anything. What kind of loads? Harrigan asks. Doesn't matter. It does if it puts you on Old Mill Road, Roe says. At the mention of that name, something flickers in Hale's eyes, like a shutter snapping over a lens. Never heard of it, he says quickly. Too quickly. Roe leans forward just a fraction. We haven't told you what road her car was found on, he says quietly. Hale opens his mouth, then closes it. His gaze slides away, lands on a family photo on the shelf. A much younger version of his son, gap-toothed, holding a baseball bat. Hale himself in the background, hand on the boy's shoulder, both of them squinting into the sun. If you want a lawyer, Harrigan says, voice neutral, you should say so. We'll stop asking questions, for now. Hale laughs then, a short, bitter sound. A lawyer, he says? You think you're going to pin something from 30 years ago on me because my kid knocked over a window and cut himself? That's insane. Nobody said pin, Roe says. We said, look, we're going to look, Mr. Hale, with or without your help. He stands, slow. Harrigan follows. They've got enough for suspicion, enough for surveillance, enough to start building the next layer, but not enough to slap cuffs on him and drag him into an interrogation room. Not yet, not if they want it to stick. Roe reaches into his jacket, pulls out a card, and sets it on the coffee table. If you remember anything about that time, he says, if you want to talk again, call me. We're not going away. They turn to go. Hey, Hale says behind them. They stop. His voice is different now, flatter, like he's put something behind his eyes, a barrier they're not getting through today. You ever think maybe some things stay unsolved for a reason? He asks. Maybe digging them up just hurts people all over again for nothing? Harrigan looks at him, at his face, at the way his right hand shakes just slightly where it grips the armrest. Yeah, Harrigan says. I've thought about that every day for 19 years, and every day I decide I'd rather hurt with the truth than sit quiet with a lie. They leave. Back in the car, the silence is a third person sitting with them. He knows, Harrigan says finally. He knows exactly what we're talking about. Whether he did it or not, he knows something. Roe doesn't disagree. He stares at the house, at the slumped figure visible through the thin curtains, at the truck with its dented bumper and its plates that once showed up in a motel parking lot 15 minutes from a car on Old Mill Road. We'll get his DNA, Roe says. One way or another, trash pull, abandoned cup, cigarette butt, we'll do it clean. We'll run it against the motel profile. If it hits, we move. If it doesn't, Harrigan finishes, then we find out which of his brothers or cousins or uncles was driving that truck in 91. They sit there a few minutes more. On a different street in a different town, years earlier, a woman sat on her couch and tried to describe a gloved hand reaching through broken glass. Her fear ended up in a file, in a lab, in a database. That database reached out across time and grabbed this quiet house by the throat. Science has no memory of faces or tears or hazard lights blinking in the fog. It has only patterns, numbers, matches. But detectives remember. That night, Harrigan drives home by way of Maple Falls. He doesn't have to. It's out of his way. But his hands turn the wheel almost on their own. The town is mostly asleep. Streetlights cast pale cones on empty sidewalks. The diner's neon sign hums in the dark. The Carter house still has its porch light on. He slows when he reaches Old Mill Road. He doesn't stop this time. He just drives past, eyes flicking to that familiar spot where the blue Chevy once sat with its hazard lights pulsing, the heartbeat of a night that never ended. For the first time, he doesn't see it as a dead end. He sees it as a starting point with a line now drawn all the way to a living room, to a man with a shaking hand, to a database humming quietly, waiting to spit out a single word that will shatter a small Ohio town all over again. Match. They take the trash. Not the house, not the truck, not the man sitting in his sagging armchair, staring at a muted TV and an unmuted past. Just the trash. It's legal. Once it hits the curb, it's abandoned. That's what the law says. That's what the training drills into you. No warrant, no permission, no warning, just timing and patience. So they wait. 3 days after the knock on his door, Hale rolls his garbage can down the cracked driveway, black plastic bag on top, twisted and tied, bulging with the week's leftovers. He leaves it by the curb, just like everyone else on the street. Blue recycling bins, green cans, a line of ordinary routines. The municipal truck isn't due for an hour. The unmarked car slides up to the corner. 2 plainclothes officers step out like they're taking a walk. They don't rush, they don't sneak. They move with the casual weight of people who've done this many times before. One grabs the bag from Hale's can, lifts it like it's nothing but coffee grounds and junk mail. The other slips a fresh, generic bag in its place. The swap takes 5 seconds. The bag lands in the trunk of the unmarked car with a dull thud. The officers drive away. Hale never looks out the window. Or if he does, he doesn't see anything worth noticing. Just another truck, just another day. At the station, they spread the bag open on a stainless steel table under harsh fluorescent lights. Gloves, masks, careful hands. This is what a life looks like when you tear it open and sort through the leftovers. Empty beer cans, crumpled receipts, fast food wrappers stained with grease, a handful of cigarette butts, lipstick smears on some, none on others, paper towels, an envelope torn in half, the return address long since blurred by coffee. They're not looking for confessions in ink or hidden diaries. They're looking for what he can't help but leave behind. Saliva on a cigarette filter, skin cells on a can rim, a plastic fork with teeth marks in the handle. Each one is a potential key. The text, bag, and tag, each item into its own sterile container, chain of custody documentation, case numbers, lab forms. It's slow, methodical, almost boring if you don't know what's at stake. Rowe signs the evidence over. The box goes to the lab. Another drive, another metal table in another building that smells like disinfectant and humming machines. The process starts again. Same rush as last time? A tech asks him. More, Rowe says. She raises an eyebrow but doesn't ask why. She has her own backlog of ghosts to tend to. Swabs, extractions, amplifications, numbers rolling out on screens, peaks on graphs, the quiet violence of science. They pull several profiles from the trash. One female, likely a visitor or someone he lives with sometimes. One male profile that pops up more than once. Same alleles, same pattern. It shows up on a cigarette butt, on a soda can, on the rim of a plastic coffee cup. The tech isolates that profile. Runs it against the unknown male from the motel room in 1991. The system thinks for a second, then the numbers line up. It's not partial this time, not familial, not close enough. It's exact. The peaks match, the alleles align. Every tested locus sings the same strange, unchangeable code. Unknown male, motel room, 1991 equals Mr. Hale, trash bag, present day. The lab doesn't write it like that, of course. They use precise language, cautious terms. The probability of selecting an unrelated individual at random from the population who would match the DNA profile obtained from the motel sample is approximately 1 in several trillion. But what it means is simple. The man in the flannel with the dented bumper and the shaking hand was in that motel room the night Emily Carter disappeared. Not a rumor, not a guess, not the fuzzy memory of a clerk or the blurry image of a VHS tape. A hard, cold connection written in his blood. Rowe gets the call. He's in the middle of another case, some petty fraud that suddenly feels as important as a parking ticket. His phone buzzes. His throat goes dry halfway through the tech's first sentence. Say it again, he says. Full match, she repeats. The unknown male from the Carter motel sample and the profile from the trash. It's him. He thanks her, hangs up, sits there at his desk staring at nothing. This is the moment cold case detectives are supposed to dream about. The hit, the match, the sound of an old door creaking open. But it's not triumph, he feels. Not exactly. It's something heavier. Responsibility. The weight of walking into people's lives and swinging a wrecking ball through the thin wall of scar tissue they've built up over decades. He calls Harrigan. The older man answers on the second ring. It's late. You can hear the TV in the background, the soft murmur of some sports game he isn't really watching. It's him, Rowe says. No lead-in, no warm-up. The motel DNA, the trash, Hale, it's a match. Silence. Then quietly, you sure? As sure as science can be, Rowe says. We'll get the report.